Talk about a takedown. Everybody, David Shuster here. The lone liberal on Fox News, Jessica Tarlov, recently ripped conservative Jeanine Pirro. And this broadside on the Five was one of the most brutal and effective you will ever see. The panel was talking about the war in Ukraine, and Jeanine Pirro expressed sympathy for Vladimir Putin's Russia, given the NATO alliance.
Every decade, they move closer and closer to Russia, NATO has. And the Crimea and everything else is a response to NATO.
Russia. NATO encroaching on them.
They are an independent country who believes strong. And I'm not pro-Russia at all.
Really? But it doesn't sound like that.
Don't give me that, really.
Don't give me that.
Don't give me that. You know?
Judge Janine, she just did give you that. You sound like an apologist for Putin.
You know what? The truth is they stand for this, and they don't want NATO any closer. And it's been decades that that's been agreed to.
They invaded a sovereign nation and
do you remember 3 years ago?
They've stolen their children.
Okay, 3 years ago.
1 second, Jessica. No.
3 years ago, I sat here and I said the Russian-Ukrainian thing is like a family fight across the street. We don't want to go over there and get in between a family fight.
Leave it to Greg Gutfeld to reduce the battle between Russian tyranny and European freedom to a family fight across the street. Keep in mind that Russia wants all of Ukraine, and Donald Trump keeps denigrating Ukraine's leader Zelensky and has never criticized Russia's Putin, even though Vladimir Putin started the war by invading Ukraine. Now, Trump is carrying Putin's water in possible negotiations, and that was Tarlov's point about the Trump peace deal.
Do you think that it's important to consider the fact that this quote-unquote peace deal that he's offering means that Zelensky essentially cedes his country to Russia? And no one has explained what the sudden change in the last couple of weeks and the way that Donald Trump is talking about Ukraine and Zelensky is spurred by. He didn't used to call Zelensky a dictator. He didn't used to say that his people hated him. He didn't used to say he had a 4% approval rating. He didn't used to say any of the total blasphemy that he's been throwing out there the last few weeks. Elon Musk also on Twitter a couple days ago saying, I agree, to someone who said that the U.S. should get out of NATO and the UN.
Blasphemy.
These are all things. Is that bad? I couldn't come up with the right word.
It's funny.
Okay. Well, have a good chuckle at it. These are all things that Putin wants to hear. And you know that because his own spokesman, Peskov, said as much, said the rapidly changing U.S. foreign policy configurations largely coincides with our vision. Dmitry Medvedev, the insolent pig about Zelensky, finally got a proper slapdown in the Oval Office. Trump is right. The Kyiv regime is gambling with World War III. So if you are satisfying someone that we all agree is a dictator and authoritarian to that level, don't you think maybe the methods aren't that great?
But such deep thinking is usually beyond the reach of most conservatives, including those on the Five. Those panelists, including Jeanine Pirro and Jesse Waters, are Trump-parroting simpletons.
If you can't do it militarily, you got to go do it at the negotiating table.
You know what? The truth is that Donald Trump's job is to get a deal. And that means you don't take one side or the other.
He's taking
and
one side.
their interpretation of his not taking, of his
Brett
not
says we have to go.
criticizing
Stop.
Putin is that he's pro-Putin. He's a deal maker.
Okay.
Glad
Who
we
likes
settled that.
Vladimir Putin?
Trump is a deal maker who, Tarlo adds, likes Vladimir Putin. And Trump's alliance with Putin is the unvarnished truth that Trump defenders will not acknowledge. But it gets even worse, because on shows like The Five, conservatives not only dismiss the Trump love of Putin, the conservatives dump on Zelensky because this is what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance did. So Jeanine Pirro attacks Zelensky, and a quick retort from Tarlov underscores that Pirro comes across like a Trump-Putin stooge.
This guy Zelensky's playing checkers and Trump is playing chess. This guy Zelensky's a fool. I'm not pro-Russia at all.
Really? It doesn't sound like that.
Don't give me that,
You
really.
don't give me that.
Jeanine Pirro has been giving truth tellers opportunities to shame her for years. More on that in a moment. First, Pirro is not the only Trump conservative lately who has gotten torched for statements related to the Russia-Ukraine war. Vice President J.D. Vance recently gave an interview to Fox and seemed to refer to a plan by British leaders to send 20,000 troops to Ukraine.
Look, if you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years.
The British Star newspaper called it Trump deputies' vile slur on Brit heroes. Vance slams us as random country who haven't fought a war in 40 years. But 636 of our troops died in Afghanistan and Iraq fighting alongside U.S. J.D. Dunce. The Daily Mirror, Trump sidekick slur. On the day of Britain's VE celebrations, the U.S. Vice President pours scorn on the heroes of armed forces. Disgrace. Vance now insists he wasn't referring to Great Britain or France. Sure. The point in all of this is that Donald Trump, his team, and his supporters keep coming across in Ukraine and other issues like thoughtless buffoons. Europe is standing for freedom and democracy. The United States, under Trump, stands with Russia. It's revolting. And that takes us back to Jeanine Pirro on Fox News.
Robert De Niro, you're just too stupid. Keep your mouth shut. The issue is not the issue at hand. Obstruction is not the issue.
Jeanine Pirro's whoppers are an issue. So much so that 2 years ago, Fox News pulled the plug on her TV program.
I thank you for fighting for me, and you know who you are. And so as we reach the end of this journey, don't think you're getting rid of me just yet.
Yes, Fox News kept Pirro around as a commentator on The Five.
It's your turn.
It's your segment.
And the controversies have become legendary. Mediaite Fox News reportedly demoted Jeanine Pirro, own producer, torched her as a reckless maniac. Quote, Pirro had become so unmanageable that her own executive producer called her a reckless maniac, as a filing in the Dominion lawsuit previously indicated.
This guy has been lying from the moment he came on the political scene. He has a lack of empathy. He is egocentric. He's got a condescending smirk whenever anybody asks him a question from the press.
Some of the recklessness allegedly included drinking too much wine before going on air, a claim underscored by the Good Liars.
Let me ask you a question. When you're on the air, do you have a couple drinks before you go on?
Never.
Because I watched you one time and you were slurring your words a little bit.
I was never slurring my words.
When you were on your show, on Judge Jeannie, you were slurring your words a little bit.
But that's what we like about it. We're like, this
funny.
is what's fun about the show.
He's saying that I was slurring my words.
Well, just you've had a couple.
You just had a couple drinks.
That's
No?
why we watch
What's
the show.
your name?
To be clear, if Jeanine Pirro has a few drinks before going on live TV, that's fine. Maybe alcohol helps her spew Donald Trump's propaganda. But whether she or any other conservatives are sober or inebriated, their defense of Trump and Russia is embarrassing. Thankfully, Fox News still allows Jessica Tarlov to call it all out with facts and logic. And in many ways, when Tarlov takes on the wacky Jeanine Pirro, it's not a fair fight. Hey, Fox, keep it going. By the way, the Trump administration says the U.S. stock market drop and economic turmoil from its tariffs are worth the long-term boost to U.S. manufacturing. Not according to economists, though.
I think what's coming out of the White House is, frankly, unmitigated nonsense, and there's not an economist alive who would defend what they're doing. But your viewers don't have to believe me. It turns out that there's a market where people bet on whether those sorts of effects are going to happen. I'm talking, of course, of the stock market. If Lutnick is right, and if Trump is right that these tariffs are going to lead to a boom in American business, then you should see the American stock market boom in response to a tariff announcement. What we saw was the stocks fell 2.5% yesterday, an additional 1.5% this morning. This is the stock market telling you, we think this is absolutely terrible for American business. And remember, it's businesses that are meant to benefit here. The stock market's not even taking account of the fact that high tariffs mean you and I are going to be paying a whole lot more at the grocery store as well. So there's a lot of losers all around.
It isn't like they've said, okay, look, here's the schedule, here's the tariff. Like when you were in Europe and they did Brexit, you got the schedule, you got the tariff. You said, oh, okay, I owe this. They haven't given us anything. We don't know what we owe and what we don't owe. We don't know where it's paid. We don't know if it isn't paid. Do we owe them? Who owes it? Does the buyer owe it? I mean, the lack of any thought about this, David, is stunning.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from AJ London, who wrote, Khrushchev said Russia would never have to fire a bullet to take down the USA. He said it would be done from within. Russia is laughing. Indeed. I look forward to reading your comments about Jessica Tarlov hitting back and destroying Trump sycophant Jeanine Pirro on Fox News. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.